Defending champions, India have secured their spot in the grand finale of the SAF Championship following an intense penalty win over Lebanon in the semi-final played yesterday. Meanwhile, Nepal played the UAE in the playoff of the ICC World Cup qualifier today. Good morning, I'm Chitrakar and these are the headlines of the hour. Officials of corruption watchdog, the Commission for the Investigation of Abuse of Authority, increasingly getting involved in irregularities, abuse of access and political reach witnessed in recent time. One-way vehicular movement resumes in various highways of the country. Some highways still remain obstructed. The main highway connecting the country with the federal capital obstructed since last night. Rioting across France appears to have slowed down. Tens of thousands of police deployed in cities across the country after funeral of killed teenager. And Nepal play the United Arab Emirates in the ICC World Cup qualifier playoffs. Coach Monty Desai likely to hand opportunity to bench players. Discussions on the finance bill is scheduled to be held at the House of Representatives today. The meeting is scheduled to be held in a short while. Lawmakers are scheduled to hold discussions on the bill and conclude proposals of amendment. Finance Minister Prakash Sharan Mahat is set to present proposal to endorse the bill. Likewise, proposal regarding holding section-wise discussions on the bill to raise national debt is also scheduled to be presented. The Commission for the Investigation of Abuse of Authority, CIAA, can conduct investigations and file cases against government officials if they are found involved in corruption. However, the leadership of the authority itself has been dragged into controversy. The CIAA in the past was known for conducting investigations on high-profile cases. However, it had remained inactive for the past few years. The trend of the anti-graft body's chief commissioner and commissioners themselves being dragged into controversy regarding irregularities has thrived. The chief secretary during former King Gyanindra's rule, Lukman Singh, was appointed as the chief commissioner in the Nepali year 2070. Singh was suspended after 157 lawmakers filed a writ against him, citing breach of jurisdiction. Later, the Supreme Court termed Singh incompetent in remaining the chief commissioner. Karki's predecessor, Chief Commissioner Deep Basnet, have also been alleged of his involvement in the Lalita Niwas land scam during his tenure as the Secretary of the Ministry for Physical Infrastructures. The CIA alleged former Secretary Nabin Khimire, who had assumed his duties as the Chief Commissioner after Basnet, of failing to open files of high-profile corruption cases. An audio tape of Raj Narayan Pathak, who was a commissioner during Khimire's term, was leaked and was proved guilty by the special court. Present Chief Commissioner of the Corruption Watchdog CIAA, Prem Kumar Rai too has been dragged into controversies since his appointment process. Rai has been alleged of his involvement in the fake Bhutanese refugee scam by delaying investigations on the case. Various highways in the country have resumed one-way vehicular movement, while some have remained obstructed. The Narayangad-Muglin road section under the main highway that connects the country with the federal capital had been obstructed last night as well. Vehicular movement was obstructed again since 11 p.m. last night due to a landslide near the bridge number 3 of the Narayangad-Muglin road section under the Prithvi highway. Police have said that the roadway has been completely obstructed and that efforts are underway to remove the debris. This road section had remained completely obstructed for an entire day and had reopened since 5 p.m. yesterday. Traffic congestion on the highway has been reported while travelers have been stranded in the highway. Likewise, Char Ali road section under the Mechi highway has become obstructed. Efforts are underway to reopen the Chatara Mulghat Ganesh Chowk road section under the Tamor corridor. The Department of Road has said that Kimathanka road section under the Koshi highway has also remained obstructed. Meanwhile, one-way vehicular movement has resumed at various places under the Kaligandaki corridor and Palpa road section under the Siddhartha highway, which had been struck by landslides. In our Public Voice segment, we had asked people in several provinces regarding ways to address the issue of obstruction of roadways even during light rainfall. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Public voice.
बाटोहरु खन्दाखेरिमा चाहिँ नालीको व्यवस्थापन हुनुपर्ने
पूर्व तयारी नै हुनुपर्छ
संरचनाकै विकास गर्नु पर्यो
डोजरहरु त्यो तयार हुनु पर्यो
एप हेर्ने र एपमा कतै डिस्टर्बनेस छैन भन्यो त आफ्नो आवाज जाओस् सजिलो तरिका जाओस् आओस् हुने गरी नेपाल सरकारले वातावरण बनाइदिनु पर्यो
आपतकालीन रूपमा कार्य गर्न सक्ने एक्टिभ मान्छे चाहिँ टिम चाहिँ एउटा ठाउँ-ठाउँमा व्यवस्था गर्नुपर्छ
डोजरहरु देखि लिएर सबै स्काभेटरहरु चाहिँ सबै रेडी गरेर राख्नु पर्यो
विकासका नाममा गरिने जति पनि क्रियाकलाप छन् तिनीहरु चाहिँ दिगो विकासको अवधारणा अनुसार गर्न सक्यो भने
वर्षत पर्नु भन्दा अगाडि सडकहरु मर्मत गर्नुपर्छ
सरकारले सर्वप्रथम त यसको दीर्घकालीन निकासका कुराहरुमा चाहिँ ध्यान दिनुपर्ने कुराहरु हुन्छ
जथाभावी डोजर लगाउने बाटोघाटो खनेर जम्मै यो पहिरो जाने कारण त्यही हो
The world's powerful countries have become polarized amid the Russia-Ukraine war. The interest of countries like China, the USA and India towards Nepal has increased as well. For this reason, Nepal must remain free from geopolitical affairs. Meanwhile, the United Nations has prioritized the identity of Nepali security personnel in peacekeeping missions. This has increased visit of high-profile officials from the UN to Nepal in recent time. Under-Secretary General of the United Nations Peacekeeping Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, returned on Friday, completing his three-day visit to Nepal. During his visit, Lacroix held dialogues with the Chief of Army Staff of Nepal Army and heads of Nepal Police and Armed Police Force. His visit has been considered significant as 47 nations associated with the United Nations participated in the Conference on Security, which was held for the first time in South Asia in Nepal 2 weeks ago. 6 high-profile officials from the UN have visited Nepal within a year. Nepal has been prioritized by the UN as Nepal is the world's second-largest contributor to the UN peacekeeping missions. More than 6,000 Nepali security personnel have been deployed for peacekeeping missions in 12 different countries. The UN has been saying that they want to increase the number to up to 10,000. Nepal has become the first nation to recruit the highest number of female security personnel in peacekeeping missions abroad, with currently 601. The demand for Nepali peacekeepers has increased as they can play an impartial role in war-torn countries like Sudan, Lebanon and Libya. Nepali security personnel have been contributing in the national economy through peacekeeping missions by bringing in $140 million into the country annually. This has become an alternative to protect the country from increasing polarization among the powerful countries in the world. Pressure has been mounting on Nepal to be involved in the USA's State Partnership Program SSP and China's Global Security Initiative GSI. Meanwhile, experts opine Nepal should rather focus on United Nations peacekeeping missions to protect itself from the vested interest of these powerful countries. The Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal has cancelled all the flights of Sri Airlines today, citing negligence in flight security. CAN has grounded all the flights of Sri Airlines after identifying technical issue in one of their aircraft. Meanwhile, the airlines has said that all of their aircrafts will be inspected today and regular flights will resume from tomorrow. The Dhangadi-bound aircraft of Sri Airlines had returned to Kathmandu yesterday after detecting some technical issues. Prior to this, the same aircraft, which was headed to Dhangadi, was diverted to Kathmandu, citing loss of cabin pressurization. Time now for our segment, Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here's the question. What's your say on the entity formed to control corruption being dragged into controversy? Your options are A, influenced by political parties, B, lack of monitoring, and C, absence of ethics. Voting is on. Type any WS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for international update. Rioting across France appeared to be less intense on Saturday as tens of thousands of police had been deployed in cities across the country after a funeral of a teenager of North African descent whose shooting by police sparked a nationwide unrest. President Emmanuel Macron postponed a state visit to Germany that was due to begin on Sunday to handle the worst crisis for his leadership since the Yellow Vest protests paralyzed much of France in late 2018. Some 45,000 police were on the streets with specialized elite units, armored vehicles and helicopters brought in to reinforce its three largest cities, Paris, Lyon and Marseille. The situation was calmer on Sunday morning than the previous 4 nights, although there was some tension in central Paris and sporadic clashes in the Mediterranean cities of Marseille, Nice and the eastern city of Strasbourg. The biggest flashpoint was in Marseille, where police fired tear gas and fought street battles with youths around the city centre late into the night. In Paris, police increased security at the city's landmark Champs-Élysées Avenue after a call on social media to gather there. The street, usually packed with tourists, was lined with security forces carrying out spot checks. Shop facades were boarded up to prevent potential damage and pillaging. The Interior Ministry said 1,311 people had been arrested on Friday night, compared with 875 the previous night, although it described the violence as lower in intensity. Police said almost 200 people had been arrested nationwide on Saturday. Local authorities all over the country announced bans on demonstrations, ordered public transport to stop running in the evening, and imposed some overnight curfews. A 6-story building collapsed while under construction in Ivory Coast's commercial capital, Abidjan, on Friday, killing at least 7 of the builders on site, firefighters at the scene said on Saturday. Around midday local time, the workers heard cracking sounds and the building started to crumble around them, said caretaker and builder Jordan Yoro, who was injured by falling debris. Rescue efforts were ongoing at the site in Abidjan's upscale Riviera Palmeria district on Saturday, with emergency workers searching through a vast pile of shattered concrete and debris. A further 9 people were wounded in the collapse, said Charles Paulo, the head of the firefighting unit at the scene. Such accidents are relatively frequent in Ivory Coast and elsewhere in West Africa, particularly in the rainy season, due to poor enforcement of building regulations and the use of often substandard construction materials. In 2022, the Ivorian government said it would step up efforts to boost compliance with safe construction practices after 13 people were killed in 2 building collapses in Abidjan within a 2-week period in February and March. Dutch King William Alexander on Saturday apologized for the Netherlands' historic involvement in slavery and the effects that it still has today. The king was speaking at a ceremony marking the 160th anniversary of the legal abolition of slavery in the Netherlands, including its former colonies in the Caribbean. He said racism in Dutch society remained a problem and that not everyone would support his apology, but his speech was greeted with cheers and applause from thousands of onlookers at the National Slavery Monument in Amsterdam's Oosterpark. The apology comes amid a wider consideration of the Netherlands' colonial past, including involvement in both the Atlantic slave trade and slavery in its former Asian colonies. William Alexander apologized in Indonesia in 2020 for excessive violence during Dutch colonial rule. In December, Prime Minister Mark Rutte acknowledged the Dutch state bears a responsibility in the Atlantic slave trade and profited from it and apologized. A government-commissioned study published last month found that the House of Orange profited by around $600 million in modern terms from Dutch colonies between 1675 and 1770, much of it given as a gift from the Dutch East India Company's spice trade profits. The Royal House in December commissioned an independent investigation into the royal family's role in colonial history, with results expected in 2025. Tens of thousands of Israelis took to the streets of Tel Aviv on Saturday to protest for the 26th consecutive week, days after lawmakers began debating a bill that would limit the Supreme Court's powers, rebooting a fiercely opposed judicial overhaul instigated by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's religious nationalist coalition. Protesters waved Israeli flags and chanted democracy as they vowed to continue to ensure Israel's democracy. Anti-government demonstrations had prompted Netanyahu to suspend his judicial drive in March to allow compromise talks with opposition parties. He declared those talks fruitless last week and ordered some of the legislation to be revived. In a filmed interview posted on the Wall Street Journal website on Thursday, Netanyahu said he has dropped a central element of a bitterly contested plan, though he was still pursuing changes to the way judges are selected. Coalition lawmakers have indicated that the new bill would be a far softer version of previous proposals that had sought to almost totally roll back the Supreme Court's power to rule against the executive. The opposition, however, says the new bill would still open the door to corruption. The proposed judicial overhaul has also stirred Western concern over Israel's democratic health and spooked investors. Several thousand unionized port workers in Canada's western province of British Columbia went on strike after failing to reach a deal to renew an industry-wide contract that expired in March, a waterfront employers group said on Saturday. The British Columbia Maritime Employers Association said it and the International Longshore and Warehouse Union Canada had met Thursday and Friday in talks supported by the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service. Unfortunately, a tentative agreement could not be reached, the BCMEA said in a statement. ILW Canada members were on strike at sites across British Columbia. The union said it would issue a statement once there is a resolution to the dispute over the collective bargaining agreement, which covers about 7,500 employees at 30 terminals in the province. The walkout could have serious consequences for Canada's economy and small businesses, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business said in a statement. The group urged the government to ensure port operations are maintained. Time now for sports update.
Sports news.
Nepal play the United Arab Emirates in the playoffs of the ICC World Cup qualifiers today. The match, which will be played at the Takashina Sports Club, will begin at 12:45 p.m. Nepal time. Team Nepal had finished 4th in Group A, while the UAE were placed 5th in the Group B. Team Nepal had secured a single win in the group stage and were denied their spot in the Super 6. Meanwhile, the UAE had suffered a 138-run defeat to Ireland in their last group stage match. With 1 win and 3 defeats, Team Nepal had finished their group stage with only 2 points, while the UAE failed to secure any point. In the first playoff played yesterday, Ireland secured a 6-wicket win over the United States of America. A win over the UAE will see Nepal play Ireland for the 7th spot, while a defeat will see a contest against the USA for the 9th place. There are high chances of coach Monty Desai giving opportunities to bench players today. Nepal and the UAE are familiar rivals in the ODI format. Of the 5 recent matches between the two sides, Nepal have won 4 and lost 1. And before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. Officials of corruption watchdog, the Commission for the Investigation of Abuse of Authority, increasingly getting involved in irregularities. Abuse of access and political reach witnessed in recent time. One-way vehicular movement resumes in various highways of the country. Some highways still remain obstructed. The main highway connecting the country with the federal capital obstructed since last night. Rioting across France appears to have slowed down. Tens of thousands of police deployed in cities across the country after funeral of killed teenager. And Nepal play the United Arab Emirates in the ICC World Cup qualifier playoffs. Coach Monty Desai likely to hand opportunity to bench players. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.